if you're allowed to talk about this, but I had read on your website that there had been some potential movie interest for the Virginia Mysteries.
Yeah, so that was a really exciting and also surprising thing that happened a couple years ago. So I actually got a message out of the blue from someone in town that his son, actually another one of these kind of reluctant readers that we talked about before, who never really could get through a book and didn't really like to read, and had picked up Summer of the Woods, my first book, in one of the local indie bookshops in town, and suddenly buzzed through it in like 2 days. And his dad was mystified as to how this could have happened. So he said, "What book is you reading?" And he showed it to him, and he said, "Dad, this would make a really good movie." And so it turns out this person has a video production company and does a lot of commercials and has done some different films, and had been wanting to get into and do kind of a family friendly film that the way we described it is kind of in between like an animated Disney movie, which is sometimes not what adults are going to be interested in, and something that is not quite as intense as scary as something like Stranger Things, which was really big at the time. So somewhere in between there, which is right in that middle grade kind of range. So he reached out to me and we talked about it, and I optioned the book there, and it's a long process. It's a little bit different because it's more appropriately the indie route as well, versus being a big studio kind of production. So the script is being developed and kind of staying in the loop on that, and kind of gradually we're getting to the point where I think hopefully by next summer or somewhere around there, we'll look at being able to start kind of moving forward in production. So I'm not super involved in it. They're very good about keeping me in the loop as to kind of where things are at, but it's a whole nother beast, if you will, in terms of its own entity. But I think I'm flattered, and it's not, I figure it's nothing but a positive thing to have another way for people to get tapped into things related to the stories.
Certainly can't hurt.
Yeah, so just as a little bit of an aside, it kind of falls into the category. I say this a lot when I talk to writers, in new writers particularly, is inevitably, and it's very common and understandable, I think people get very hung up on being afraid to share their stories and their ideas and put them out into the world. And a lot of new writers say they have several books in their drawer, on their hard drive, or they just don't know what to do. And I think it doesn't mean that indie publishing is the right thing for everyone to do, and it doesn't mean by any means that what you put out there is going to be an immediate success, or even that first book or two may not be a success. But I found, and I think having a little bit of history had shown me, that being able to put something out there and trying it and put it into the world and see what happens, what you do know is that nothing's going to happen if you don't put it out there. And I think sometimes people can get a little bit hesitant. And a lot of it is being at the right place at the right time and seeing what happens. But it's amazing how people that are out there and persistent in trying things and really working it, good things tend to happen more there than if you're really holding back and not trying new things. So not being afraid to fail, I think, is a really important thing in every walk of life. But it applies a lot to writing and putting your books out in the world. And given the fact that there is a path now that didn't exist 10, 15, 20 years ago, or all years before that, it gives you an easier way to do that, and you never know what can happen. So that's fun for me to see, and try to encourage people that to maybe take a step forward if it's the right thing for them, and give it a try, and not always be kind of afraid of exactly what might happen, because you never know.
It's the greatest time in the history of the world, I think, to be an author. Never been anything like the time we're living through. Never had the access to as many readers as we have. Never had the tools available to us to do it from home in our pajamas a lot of times.
Yeah, exactly.
Outstanding.
It's a good time.